Corey, how about you and Conley moving over to this side chairs? Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
There's 2 chairs right down here. No, thank you.
He had left, didn't he?
Johnny's children, Sam children.
Who?
Johnny Tim's children.
I see them in and out over there all the time.
In and out where?
Next door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're renting the first part of the house out.
Oh,
They put a
okay.
wall in there, and then she's still using the back of the hall.
I'm planning to call soon.
They're doing a bunch of work over at my son's house.
Oh, really? The business is good.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing how his daughter took on the same profession her daddy.
Mm-hmm.
She went to favorite, but she finished Kirkland State, I think.
All right, what we got going here? Let's see. That time, ain't it?
It is 6 o'clock. I welcome you to the, excuse me, July 11th Board of Commissioners meeting. This time I'd like to call on Commissioner B.J. Gibson for our invocation.
Would you bow your heads with me? Our God and our Creator, we thank you for this day, for all of the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. We do say thank you. We ask for your guidance this evening as we shall do our job to handle the business of this county. It is our prayer that you will lead, guide, and direct all that we say and do, that it might be done in the best interest of the citizens of whom we serve. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Gibson. At this time, I'd like for you to stand with me, and I'm going to ask, we have 2 Boy Scouts with us. Excuse me, Corey and Conley McIntyre. You gentlemen would join us, and they're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We welcome you here. I'm not sure what we've got on the agenda that brings out such a good crowd, but we are glad to see you. We feel like we're better with the more people we have with us, the better job that we do. So we do certainly appreciate you being with us tonight. We have the agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Ivy and a second by, I'm sorry, was that Clarence, Commissioner McFadden? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. It is approved. First, let me apologize to you for the absence of a couple of our commissioners. Commissioner Carol McCall had heart surgery, I believe, 2 weeks ago tomorrow. She is home. She is recovering. She's had no major complications. It's just going to be a long time coming for her to regain her strength. So she is not going to be present with us tonight. About mid-afternoon, 3:30, I got a call from Commissioner John Alford. He had been to the doctor, had been to the dentist today, and they were concerned about his blood pressure and had sent him back to his physician, who had told him to go home and rest for the next several days without adding stress to his life. And I don't know why he thought coming to a commissioners meeting would add stress to his life, but he decided to go home and not be with us this evening. But we do have a quorum. Commissioners, we do have a consent agenda. Before that, we have a public forum. Jason, do we have anybody who has signed up to address the group? Okay, we have a time every commissioners meeting where members of the public who want to address this group can come and speak to us for 3 minutes. We try to limit that time limit for you, and you can sign up for that beforehand. And is she the only person? She's the only person. Okay, is Linda here with us today? If you would come forward. If you would come to the microphone and let's make sure it's working and introduce yourself. And if you're a resident of this county, give us your address.
My name is Melissa Swarbrick. I actually live in Hoke County at 202 Lally Circle in Aberdeen. Some of you might know I'm a candidate for the State House for District 48, Hoke and Scotland counties. But today I come before you as an animal welfare advocate. My husband John and I have been doing animal welfare work for 25 years. 6 months ago, we started an animal advocacy group for Hoke and Scotland counties. We spent the bulk of our time working with Hoke County residents and commissioners, and now we feel it's time to come down here and speak with you about some of our progress and recommendations. So, working within Scotland County with some of your residents, one thing I would like to stress and urge is that you move animal control to where it belongs, and that's under the purview of public safety. It needs to be under law enforcement. We go to so many houses where there are crimes being committed where you need law enforcement assistance, and that is the place where animal services should be housed. Secondly, I would like to ask you to appoint an animal welfare task force. Hoke County is just getting ready to do that thanks to our recommendations. Moore County has had one for almost 12 years. This task force can help you work with the city. They can help you bring services down here like the Moore County Spay Neuter Van, and they can work on educational materials for your residents who have questions. And finally, I would like to ask you to reinstate the Pet Responsibility Committee in the Scotland County elementary schools. You had this committee years ago. I do not know why it disbanded, but I have been working closely with Angela Zumwalt from Moore County, who has run this successful program for 14 years. They're changing the culture so that people know animals need to be respected and loved, not tied by a chain to a cinder block in their backyard. This program would cost you nothing. It's volunteer-based, and all the materials and supplies are being given us from Moore County. What I'm asking is that you start a pilot program in one school in the fall for fourth graders. We already have the volunteers and the resources in place to fund and man this pilot program. This program will help change the culture here in town and also help us work with people in the community to let them understand the importance of spaying and neuter their pets and finally stop the overpopulation and animal cruelty here in Scotland County. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on.
Yes, sir.
Tell me the name of the program in the schools.
The Pet Responsibility Committee, and it's run by Angela Zumwalt in Moore County. And she's given us all of it's a 6-week program, 45 minutes, one time a week, fourth graders only. And they do the same curriculum every year.
And do we have a phone number for you,
I can give it to you, yes.
if you would?
910-603-1701.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of her? Thank you very much.
Well, just that pet responsibility. Do you know when the last time it was here?
No, Angela gave me a list of the volunteers all over the state, and Scotland County was listed, and there were 3 or 4 volunteers. I'd have to ask her when it was dissolved. I have a feeling it wasn't managed properly, but we now have volunteers that are willing to take the bull by the horns and make this program work.
The second part of that question would be is that under our
Purview.
right?
School system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that normally coordinated by the school system?
Well, in Moore County, that's the only one I know. We lived there for 17 years. The county appointed the Pet Responsibility Committee and then met with the school board to implement its use.
Okay. You don't know how long ago there was one here?
No, but I can find out and let you know.
Okay.
I know it's been a while.
Okay. If you don't mind, if you communicate with Mr. Robinson and
Sure,
excuse me, and if you've got the names that might have been on that committee at that.
I do.
Hold on just one second.
This gentleman has to speak.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. And I think we've had someone else who has come in and asked to speak. Jason, tell me his name again.
Brandon Hackett, about subject is East Laurenburg Town Hall.
Again, sir, if you just introduce yourself and your address.
My name is Brandon Pygott. I work for the United Steelworkers, Local 9465. We represent the employees of Kirkland and NSG. And I came to address, we have been
Your
using,
your address, sir. Where do you live?
I live in Roland, North Carolina.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
All right. Like I said, I represent the employees of Kirkland and NSG, the glass plant. We have been using the East Laurenburg municipal building for about like last 15 years and been renting it from the city. And as it's changed ownership or possession, want to know future, would it be available to rent, lease, or purchase the building, and what we needed to do to find out that information.
That is an excellent question, sir. One of which we do not know the answer
Yeah.
to yet.
I understand.
As you and others in this room, the town of East Laurenburg was it's unincorporated, lost their charter, and the county made the decision to partner with the state and with the community to try to see what we can do for the community.
Yeah.
And we are in the infant stages of trying to figure out what we're going to do with that. There will be some other discussion later shortly, I think, in regard to that. And I have no idea where we're going on that.
All right. I think so.
Just make sure, if you don't mind, that we have a way to get up with you.
Yes.
I mean, you said y'all were renting it from the,
Yeah, each mayor, we just had a standing, they just passed it along, and it was like a per use rental.
what were you using? What were you using it
We
for?
use it for our monthly meetings and any other kind of functions we have.
Okay.
We always like I said, it's been like the last 15 years, and we kind of contributed to like upkeep a little bit, stuff like that they asked us to do around there. And like I said, our members are kind of familiar with that building and been using it for the last 15 years.
Okay.
We'd like to find a way to keep, use of it.
We'll try to keep you in the loop as to what we decide to do.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Robinson, anyone else who has asked to speak? Okay. Anyone else who has come in who would like to address this board for a limited period of time? Hearing none, we will close that public forum aspect of our board meeting. We have a consent agenda in front of us with items A through G. Is there a motion that we approve the consent agenda? Motion by Commissioner Goldston. Second by Mr. Ivy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We will move forward to item number 2 on our agenda, East Laurenburg Town Hall. We have had Reverend Richard Tyson asked to address this group.
My name is Richard Tyson, and I live at 12840 Deborah Drive, Laurenburg, North Carolina. And thank you for allowing me to come speak tonight. I've been pastor at East Laurenburg Baptist Church for the past 22 years and volunteer chaplain for the sheriff's office for the last 7. The town of East Laurenburg is a unique town. We're a multiracial town that we love and look out for one another. I believe if you'll check your stats, we've got the lowest crime rate in Scotland County. So we're very proud of that. There's some confusion about the town hall used to be on 5th Street where the post office was at, and that was the office that the mayor, the town council met at, and the local policeman was there. And then in the 90s, they moved from the town hall there to the East Laurenburg Community Building. The East Laurenburg Community Building was given to the people of East Laurenburg. And if you check the deed, you'll see that it was given to the people of East Laurenburg and by Waverly Mills. They offered it first to Scotland County schools, and they didn't want it. They offered it to Scotland County Parks and Recreation, and they wanted to charge a fee that Waverly Mills didn't approve of, and so they rescinded that offer to it. And so again, it's intended for the community. I grew up there in East Laurenburg. My father died when I was 8, and if it had not been for all the activities going on in that community. There's a lot of things I would not have learned. In that building, the Boy Scouts met, the Girl Scouts met. There was a club called the Golden Years Club. They had a little band that traveled around. It was all senior citizens. It housed the library. It was a very active football teams, baseball teams, all those was done there in that. And what we need in East Laurenburg, we need a place for the citizens of East Laurenburg and the surrounding areas where they can go. Some of our residents do not have transportation, so it's hard for them to come to Scotland Place or Wagram Recreation Center, Laurel Hill Recreation Center, Hammond Park, Gibson, all the places that you have there. So the children in our community have nowhere to go. Now, my church, we have basketball goals and we do a lot of stuff for the community, but that community building has always been very active for the children and all there. When I found out that the charter was lost, and I was really shocked about that, because if you can, I had a teacher in the 7th grade. She quoted an English writer that says, "The pen is mightier than the sword." And me being a young man, I said, "You better have a good right and a left or you're in trouble." But I found out through this, the pen is mightier than the sword. With one swift move, we lost our identity down there. But what I'd like to request to the Scotland County Commissioners is to approve a recreation center for the East Laurenburg area. We're asking that the East Laurenburg Community Building located at House 9, 3rd Street be renovated, a modernized recreation center, indoor activities and outdoor activities for the community to be managed by the Scotland County. Again, you have recreation centers in all the communities. There's one organizations, the gentleman that came up here, meeting in that building, and I know there's other interests in the community, partners in ministry do a wonderful work, but the work they do is closed to the children that are not enrolled in their programs. So we work together with the town of East Laurenburg. If they were overbooked at the community building there, we let them use our center, and they did the same, our fellowship hall. And so we request that you do that. I have a copy of that. If you would like a copy of that request,
Certainly we would like to have a copy of that.
I'm open for any question. And a second request I have, I didn't know what y'all were going to do with the compound or the maintenance area. Our church, we build a lot of ramps. We cut down a lot of trees. We do a lot of handyman ministry, and there's a lot of resources available from the North Carolina Baptist, but we just don't have nowhere to store the material. And that's a second part of this that someday I'd like to address you on when you make decisions on that.
Okay.
But that's all I have. And I have some of the rest. Would y'all raise your hand? Some of the folks.
Okay.
So
I recognize a lot of your folks here from East Laurenburg.
okay. Do you have any questions? I have probably about 150 signatures here, people that could not come, that we went around and asked them to sign this. So.
And Richard, if we don't give you an immediate answer, obviously this is something that is not something that we created.
Right.
It's something that but we felt like it was important that someone be willing to step forward. And I think all of us, this board was, I think, unanimous in that decision that we were wanting. And we've had folks who have come forward and wanted to buy that building. And our response was, we want to see what the people of East Laurenburg want to have done there before we make any decision.
Thank you for that.
I will open up to this group if you have any questions of Reverend Tyson.
Well, mine actually was going to be to Ed, but I don't know where he went. So,
Mr. Johnston was having some difficulty with his vision.
I was going to ask, because I'd heard about this restriction on the deed, and I wanted to find out a little more about that. But with Waverly's non-existence, would it? I don't know.
It's Waverly Fabrics.
There was a conversation between Ed and the attorney for the LGC on that. They both questioned if there was not a reversionary clause, and it's not necessarily an enforceable aspect of saying that neither party exists. Right. But that would be a question.
That's probably a legitimate legal question. my position kind of is that nobody was willing to step up and do anything about this months ago. If they dumped it in our lap, we'll do the best we can to do what's right.
You know, I talked with a lot of the leaders in the state, and I got a bunch of good old boys answers, but you know, we war against nations and then we go in and rebuild them. We understand the girl that embezzled the money, but the mayor and the commissioners there, they would have did anything to rectify that. And we asked, but I mean, again, it was really a shock to me that it came down, but we can't change that.
And Richard, I don't want to prolong this conversation, but I do want to ask the things that you've talked about that have gone on in that building. What's been going on in that building the last 4 or 5 years? What kind of meetings have been taking place? How often is it being used? If
Well,
anybody knows the answer to that.
The union met there. People had family reunions, graduation parties. We, before COVID, was having the East Laurenburg Spring Festival. And then all that come to a stop. Like I said, we used to partner with them and do different things. Right now we have in our building where
When you're saying you're talking about your church.
our church and the community building, the mayor and the commissioners there. Currently, we're in a fix because we're starting the feeding program, and we have AA that meets on Thursdays. And if we had another building that we could put them in, so we're kind of rambling at East Laurenburg Baptist for places to do stuff.
Were you using that building a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago to do that?
Not with COVID. We've been slow in getting back.
But before COVID, that's what you were using. That building was being used for that.
That building was being used for a lot of different purposes.
So for COVID pretty much has stopped its use for the last several years.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Last 3 years. So again, I thank y'all for letting me come and speak. I speak to people every week, but I'm a little bit nervous of speaking to y'all today. So
Well, I can tell how nervous you are.
does anybody have any questions or anything?
Okay. Thank you.
Leave that, the signatures and all the stuff with Mr. Jason in the back.
Yes, sir. I'll leave a copy of both.
Yeah, he'll make sure we all get a copy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Y'all be offended if I leave?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, not at all.
We enjoy having all of you here, and please know that. But we have certain parts of this program that may last 10 minutes, some may last 30. If you don't want to sit through that, don't feel like that you have to do that. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. If get up to the podium, please, and tell us who you are.
They can't hear you on TV from back there. So.
My name is Gail Chavis, and I was actually the former mayor.
Okay.
That town hall was actually used for birthday parties, anniversaries, people rented out in the community. We did have the seniors meeting there. Like he requested, LOF did rent the building. It was just activities that people, just like this past Christmas. I mean, we did a Christmas tree lighting, caroling, refreshments and stuff for the people, anybody that wanted to come in the community. We tried to keep that. We had a historical room that things that's going back hundreds of years is in that room, that the community donated things that's in that room.
Okay.
That's being lost to us now. So I would actually like to see that building kept for the community of East Laurenburg.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask that Kevin work with the Historical Properties Committee to make sure that whatever's in that building that is historical, it lost in this transition and maybe gets housed in the museum until we figure out what, because if it's left, it'll get lost.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was one of the things, because I went down there when the LGC was there the last week of June, and looking at some of the items, that was part of the conversation I had there. I just haven't reached out to Historic Properties yet, but there would be some items there that I think would be of specific interest in the museum.
Well, and there's a Waverly section at the museum out there. So, I'm not sure if that's what the stuff consists of, but I'm certain probably.
They have some, I know they have some accounting journals going back to 1911. They have a significant trophy room in there. They have in the back left room is probably more a memorabilia history room, where they have a bunch of items that are probably more community and personal interest.
That's what we grew up on. That's all we know.
Okay, well, the county, Ms. Patterson, if you'll work with the Historical Properties Commission and let's get any of that stuff that we need to protect and move out to the museum. Let's do that. And let's move forward on this building, find out, because I've been in it, but it's been several years since I've been in it. I don't know what kind of condition in. I assume it's in still pretty good physical condition.
I mean, we've had it painted inside in the last 2 years.
Okay.
It has been painted.
Well, we have constructive possession now. We have the key and
Yes.
the alarm codes, and we're paying the power bill and the et cetera, et cetera.
Everything was transferred as of June 30th.
And as far as renting it to other folks, like the gentleman from at LOF, I'm sorry, it's still LOF to me. Was that done, were there other folks who would rent that thing on a monthly basis?
No, they were the only ones besides the seniors that actually had done on a monthly basis. I mean, the people in the community, they would contact, the mayor or either commissioners who wanted to rent it out, we did that, for them, they'd have their birthday parties or baby showers,
Somebody's birthday party.
parties, whatever.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'd like for us to make sure we continue to maintain contact with Brandon, with you, because if there's a revenue stream that can be helped with this, every little bit helps. Okay.
When do you meet again? When do you?
How long has it been since y'all met in that building? Okay, so y'all been meeting through COVID. I'm gonna suggest to you that you, for the current time being, this is Kevin Patterson, our county manager. You maintain contact with him, but we might be able to make sure that's still available to you as we go forward. Okay. Any other commissioners have any questions of the several people who have made comments in here? If not, we will move to the next item. Those of you who are here just for that, you are certainly welcome to stay, but don't feel like that you have to. Reverend Tyson, your excuse, sir. Is Jim Mcmillan here? Next on the agenda is Jim Mcmillan, Planning and Zoning. I don't see Mr. Mcmillan with us.
I don't see him. Ed would be his stand-in.
Yeah, I feel so sorry for you.
I do know that they did have the public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Board. Other than the requester, no one presented for or against this project.
Okay. Okay. Well, is there any action that this board is supposed to take at this time?
And the zoning board, I do believe, recommended this project coming forward. But for this, it would require a public hearing.
Public hearing today.
It's been advertised for today. It can be postponed if the board wishes.
Jason, can you try to call Mr. McMillan and see if there's some reason that he's not here? And while you're trying to,
Somebody.
Hmm?
Or somebody that
Yeah.
was.
well, let's move forward to economic development number 4 on the agenda, public hearing on Project Granite. Mark Ward.
Actually, it's a public hearing as well. So I'll wait and see if anybody has.
Yep. But you're here, so.
And this one is a public hearing on incentive for Project Granite.
Okay, it has been, this information has been publicly advertised in what manner?
This was advertised in the newspaper.
Advertise the
Um,
newspaper that 10 days prior to this meeting.
Yes.
So that anyone who had questions or concerns or comments could attend this meeting to speak.
Okay, let's just stay with you. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of or perhaps against the county incentives proposed for Project Granite, which is a company, we're gonna tell us more about the company itself in just a minute. Is that correct?
It's actually on the wall. Champion Home Builders is Project Granite. It was publicly announced.
I didn't see those words up there. That's why. Oh, there you go. Okay, I got you.
A little less than a month ago, it was announced. They purchased the Manus Custom Builder location. There's 106 employees currently there, and they're hiring an additional 182. And the average wages for those employees will exceed the county average.
Okay, let me stop you there. Is there anyone here who wishes to comment positively or negatively on the county incentives in regard to bringing Champion Home Builders to Scotland County? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of that? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak opposed to those incentives? Hearing none, we will close that public hearing.
And that would require board action to approve the incentive.
Is there a motion to approve the incentives?
Talk about it just real quick.
Okay.
Company investment, 18,700,000. That's new investment, right?
That is
Come back to the voting, please, sir.
I apologize. That is the total investment that they are contributing to the property. Some of that does include the purchase. The existing value of the property is about $1.6 million. So that $1.6 million, they will not get any incentive, or they will pay 100% of that tax. So anything above 1.6 million is what they will get an incentive on.
And the 288, that includes what they have now, right?
That is what Manus had. Those were not Champion employees. So the state and us, we have to treat that as a new job because they are new to them. When we have asked for their NC 101 form that shows their employment numbers, they will have to show that there's 288 employees on their payroll in Scotland County.
Yeah, because on the form it says 182 new full-time. That's not counting the ones there, right?
That's correct. The ones there is 106. I think I might have had 108, but it was 106.
So the number of what they have and new.
Total. Yes, correct, sir. Yes, sir.
But we're incentivizing them on the 182.
We're incentivizing their. There's a matrix that I use to come up with that 5-year incentive number, and that was used based on the new jobs and the salaries and the insurance that they offer and their retirement. Manus is a great company. We're glad that they've been in Scotland County for years, but the new company offers insurance and retirement that all the employees did not have that opportunity at the other.
And I assume it's a 90% type.
The first 2 years is 90% of the taxes they pay. Years 3 and 4 is 80%.
90% of the number.
We have 100% on this one as well. So they have to meet all that threshold to qualify for this incentive.
Got it.
Explain to the public about the 5-year incentive.
Yep. Yep. Scotland County offers a tax grant to industries. So an industry will pay 100% of their tax bill, and then the county, based on the incentive, based on the investment and the jobs, they will grant a percent of the taxes they paid back to that company. That does not include the fire tax. That does not include the waste disposal tax. And that does not include any tax that was assessed on the property prior to their purchase. So it's all new investment into the county.
But they have to hit.
They have to hit the 288
job
18.7 investment. Right. That is correct. If the investment is less, I have to come back to you to ask for a modification. But for example, if they have 288 jobs, and let's say they invest $15 million, well, I'm only going to give them a grant of 90% of the tax they pay on 15 million versus 18. But it will still require me to come back to the commissioners to ask for an amendment to their incentive agreement.
I was saying that so people could listen.
Yes, sir.
Could understand it.
Yes, sir.
And with that, meaning the first year at 18.7 million, their tax bill would be approximately $185,000. After they paid that, the incentive back to them would be 166,000.
They have to pay it first before we give them the funds.
And I apologize for being a little distracted in this. And if they don't, there usually is a clawback clause for us to recover some of those incentives that they've got.
That's correct. If their number drops, let's say they make the incentive investment, but their jobs drop at year 3, and let's say they go to 250 jobs because of a recession, we do have the option. 1, they would not qualify for that year. 2, you have an option to go back and recoup the prior year, but not the first year. You go back 1 year as a clawback on that.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Is there a motion to approve the incentive package?
I move we approve.
A motion by Commissioner Golson, second by Commissioner McFadden. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion is passed. Thank you, sir.
We're going backwards now. I mean, we're going back to the other.
Well, I think they're trying to get it up with Jim McMillan.
I think both of those items, especially the zoning map, because they were heavily, him and Ed were heavily involved in that. So I know the zoning map one. I don't know if we can go around on the Rosemary Solar project, but I mean, if they've had their public hearing and all, but that's up to you.
I know, when they had that, the East Land, they were there and we did meetings.
And is there an approval of an existing agreement? I apologize. Let me ask you, have you and Mr. Johnston been in conversation about an agreement?
Mr. Chair, we got submitted a proposed order to Mr. Johnston, and we have witnesses here tonight to offer testimony information to the board in its public hearing, in its public quasi-judicial hearing.
Right.
That we're required to follow.
Right.
And I guess if Mr. McMillan is not going to be available, we'd ask that you open the hearing, for the purposes of hearing, for the hearing from the folks that we brought to bring information to you this evening, and if you have to reopen for Mr. McMillan, perhaps not with the public.
I think we can do that, and I think we will go forward with that at this point
I didn't want them traveling.
because y'all have.
Forever.
Yeah.
Couldn't say
And we do have a copy of the proposed order. Ed delivered that to Jason.
Jason, do you have that?
Have it.
If you would come forward and
All right, let me look at it and then I'll pass it around.
usually Mr. McMillan would come and perhaps set the table for this.
Okay.
But if you don't mind introducing yourself and kind of set the table for this as best you can, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Mr. Manager, I'm Brad Reisinger. I'm an attorney with Fox Rothschild in Raleigh. My address is 434 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh, 27601. I'm here tonight as the attorney for Rosemary Solar LLC, which is bringing before you a solar farm project that the planning board was kind enough to approve and send along to you for your consideration as well. Rosemary Solar is owned and operated by Pine Gate Renewables. David McLaughlin of Pine Gate is with us here today. We've brought with us a number of expert and fact witnesses to testify regarding the findings that you're required to make under your zoning ordinance. We certainly understand that you're all frequent travelers on solar farm approvals. We've been here once this year, which we appreciate your grace in allowing us to come back. We've brought folks who are, you're going to be familiar with the testimony that they're going to offer, and we're going to try to be as concise and direct as we can, given your familiarity with it. But we'd also like to make sure that we meet our obligations to give you an appropriate record to build on. I'm going to do the best thing a lawyer ever does. I'm not going to talk very much, and I'm just going to introduce you to the smart people that we've brought to describe the project to you.
I think I remember y'all's being here before and how wonderfully organized you were. That would be great. Go ahead, sir.
We've, Mr. Chair, we've given each of you a notebook. The notebook contains information that speaks to all of the findings that are required under Section 38 of your ordinance. In that report, it also contains 3 written expert reports of expert witnesses that we brought here tonight to offer further testimony and support and to answer your questions about the issues that they are to testify about. I'd like to start by introducing Hugh Fulton, who's going to speak on behalf of the Walker Farms family that owns the property and wishes it to be developed in the fashion that we're bringing it for your approval tonight. Mr. Fulton.
Would you want to go ahead and have everyone be sworn in at once?
Probably makes the most sense.
If anyone who you anticipate calling, if they would come forward.
Oh, boy.
We'll be efficient, I promise.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this matter, so help you God?
Sure, it's okay if I say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Read this.
My name is Hugh Fulton. I live at 502 West Church Street in Laurenburg. Just introduced as a group of smart and expert people. Most of you folks know me well enough to know I don't necessarily fall in that category, but I'm grateful to be here and have the opportunity to speak and to be heard by this group. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your service as county commissioner. If there's a more difficult volunteer job than being a county commissioner in rural North Carolina county, I can't imagine what it is. So thank you for your service and your time on behalf of this county. Listen to the East Laurenburg presentation. It just really was remarkable. The needs, the desires of this county versus the resources that we have, the challenges that you're confronted with, try to meet those. We're very grateful for that. I'm speaking here tonight on behalf of my wife, Martha Fulton, and her 4 siblings. Walker Farms is owned by the 5 of them. This is land that they inherited from their father. As you can imagine, they had considerable discussion among themselves when the whole solar idea came about. They've been approached by several different developers. There's a substantial old CP&L, now Duke Energy line that runs, that bisects this property pretty much. So it's ideal for solar development with that transmission line being there. We selected Pine Gate Renewables after talking to several potential developers. We've just seen these folks that they're very sensitive to the community. They're very professional, and they're very sensitive to the surrounding landowners. You hear some of that talk tonight. But I'm here on behalf of the family to ask your favorable consideration of this matter and just to indicate to you in a direct and specific way that the family is supportive of the project, and just as importantly, supportive of Pine Gate as being the group that develops it. And be happy to answer any questions that you folks may have for me.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Lester, who's with the engineering firm Kimley Horn. She'd like to talk with you a bit about the site plan for what will be a 74 megawatt solar farm on about 820 acres of this 1,340 acre tract. You each have a copy of the site plan and a longer pull-out version in the binder that's in front of you. And Ms. Lester also has one on a poster board.
Good evening. My name is Jen Lester. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of North Carolina. I'm currently employed at Kimley Horn and Associates, located at 421 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh, North Carolina. Like Brad mentioned, this is just a larger version of the site plan that you'll find in your binders in front of you. And really just want to give you a real high level overview at what you're looking at. So most of the site is covered in that gray hatch pattern, which is just a maximum extents that the array could possibly be put on. We're so early in the process, we don't know exactly where that's going to go, but that area includes the arrays and includes any potential erosion control basins or measures that are going to be needed to construct the project. Around the perimeter of the project, you'll see a yellow or a green line. So based on the ordinance, we are required to buffer. So anywhere where there's existing vegetation where we can preserve trees and leave those in place, that will be done. If there are areas where existing vegetation or trees do not exist, an evergreen buffer would be planted in those areas to provide screening. Along the kind of running north-south in the site is that existing overhead transmission line. So that point of interconnection that's kind of in the north east portion of the site is where all of that energy that is generated on site would be collected and then just connected into the energy grid. Around the perimeter, you will also see a setback that is above what the county requires. So it's a minimum of 50 feet around the perimeter and then 65 feet against the right-of-ways. So in my professional opinion, this meets the requirements of the Scotland County Ordinance. But if you have any other questions about site civil design, erosion control, stormwater, I am happy to answer them.
Any questions?
I don't think there is no wetlands or anything out there. Is there?
There is a very small wetland along one of the overhead lines. It's that blue kind of grass hatch that's kind of in the center. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, overall, the site, really not a ton of environmental features.
Right.
All of those environmental features are really avoided for the most part. If there are any impacts that are required for a road crossing or something similar, that would be permitted through the Army Corps of Engineers, just like any other project.
What's the closest anybody lives to that tract of land?
To the project itself?
Yeah.
I don't believe we identified any within 100 feet. I don't think we pulled a minimum from the property line, but there are no residential houses right up against the development.
The only thing out there is that ATV part.
You're coming back into Laurenburg here and up there.
That's Highland Village there, right?
Yeah.
So, God, I don't even know what that would be down there at the bottom. Morgan Circle.
And that's what is this right here?
Almost have to be Morgan Circle down there, wouldn't it?
With that,
Well, now I'm lost again.
well, I was gonna say, when you come back in, here's Laurenburg city limits.
That's Morgan Circle then. That's okay. Yeah. But that's way off from it.
Does anybody have any other questions?
That was my only question. How close? The residents.
And I think I was about to say, I think someone else may have a better answer for you that looked into the home
Okay,
values
we'll
and
save that
distances.
for that person. then.
If we start rambling, let us know.
Mr. Chair, we have two witnesses that would like to speak to you briefly regarding the finding that the board is required to make under section 38A regarding the public safety, health and welfare finding in the ordinance. Those two witnesses, one is Tommy Cleveland, who is a safety engineer who's here. He's rendered an expert report that you'll find in your binder. He's here to speak to the expert issues relating to health and safety and the construction and materials used in the project, and then its construction and operation. And also Michael Graham is here as a fact witness regarding the work related to the day-to-day affairs of a solar farm and in constructing it. So Mr. Cleveland, if you please.
Good evening, board. My name's Tommy Cleveland from Raleigh, and I'm going to talk to you briefly about health and safety impacts of this project. I'm a licensed professional engineer in North Carolina and have been for 15 years now, and I've worked longer than that in solar energy. I started out working at NC State University before there was really a solar industry in the state, and a lot of questions early in that development process about potential health and safety concerns came to me where I was working at the Clean Energy Technology Center. So over the last 10 years or so, I've developed expertise on this topic, and I've put together the health and safety assessment you see in the report. Just briefly, the technology is well understood. Technology has been studied for decades and used across the world for over 40 years. So it's understood what happens over time to that technology, and there's just negligible health impacts, nothing to be concerned of, and I address that in detail in the report. On the positive side, you've got a lot of public health benefits because of all the electricity this generates without putting any pollution out. And that directly offsets electricity that's coming from other sources that are polluting resources. So that pollution is no longer going out into the air and the water, in the vicinity. Some of the topics that I look at closely are toxicity of the equipment, EMF, electromagnetic field radiation, fire, wind damage, glare from the sun. I'm not going to answer any questions you've got about any of those, but the bottom line is there's no potential for endangering public health or safety from this project, and that's been proven by hundreds of similar projects across North Carolina and further afield. It's my professional opinion that this project's developed as it's proposed. It would not endanger public health or safety.
I think the health concerns were, I think, paramount when all this started, but I think it's become pretty much a moot issue right now. Any questions of, excuse me, Mr. Cleveland?
One, and this is about 2 miles from the end of the runway at Laurenburg Maxon Airport. Is there any evidence to suggest that that would cause issues with a solar panel that distance outside the flight plan, but would still be in a flight plan of a regional airport?
Yeah, I addressed that briefly. I didn't do a study on that, but I did consider the fact that airport is that far away. That airport is a smaller airport with no air traffic control tower. So FAA has been dealing with this question of glare impact from solar for quite a few years. And I guess over a year ago now, May of last year, they issued a new policy. They only regulate solar on airports. So that's just their limited jurisdiction. But for those airports, they said, we'll accept any amount of glare from those panels to pilots on their landing approach, but we won't accept glare to an air traffic control tower. So from that point of view, there is no air traffic control tower 2 miles away. I mean, until somebody did the analysis, I can't say there's not a possibility for pilots to see glare, but FAA is essentially saying, we don't think it's a safety hazard for pilots to see glare. They see glare all the time from water and windshields and other sources.
And given that piece of information, would that in any way prohibit the construction of a tower at the Laurenburg Maxon Air Base?
Oh, I wouldn't think so, but I'm not an expert in aviation regulation now.
Say that the FAA, it would, from the tower to
They don't specify a distance. They just their jurisdiction is only if it's on airport property. The solar is on airport property, but their regulation is the solar can't create glare visible in the air traffic control tower.
so that could be an unlimited, in theory.
Yeah, I don't know how it goes
You know,
backwards to building
Well,
limitation to building a.
There's an expansion at an airport's going on. So it's going to be expanded 2,000 feet in that direction.
Mhm.
And if they get what they're searching for out there, there's going to be an air traffic control tower there. There's going to have to be one
I see.
and then that doesn't even bring in the Golden Knights operation there. That would be on a direct approach to their run, because they have a special runway that it's not listed on the airport, but it's out there. And
Okay.
they're the only ones that use it. But so I don't know. I don't think they have a tower, but and I don't know what they do. But anyway, that's why we're asking this stuff. Is there's some expansion going on out there, and it's going to be in that direction that runway goes. So.
Any other questions of Mr. Cleveland? Okay. Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you.
Just hang on one second. Mr. Chair, Mr. Johnson would probably do this, but Mr. Cleveland's one of the witnesses that we'd like to offer as an expert witness. And before he returns to his seat, if anyone has questions about his work in the field or his credentials, before we ask you to accept him as an expert on those issues, I didn't want him to run away back to the corner until you had a chance to ask those questions.
Okay. Give us just a second. I assume you've got in your section here some.
It's not part of the
assume it has some more resume in there. I'm not fully sure. There, I know with the beginning of the report, I do have a couple paragraphs about my background. Under the report, all the sections.
Yeah.
Question his expertise.
He's an engineer.
Yeah, I don't.
Qualified.
I don't think that's not an issue. I don't believe.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, sir.
President. Mr. Graham.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Graham. I live at 278 Wilder Road West, Bentonville, South Carolina. And what I'm here to talk to you, thank you for letting me be here. What I'm here to talk to you about, these folks have told you about engineering and graphics and other things that I really don't know, but what I do know is how to go in the field and make it happen. What people that I need to put it up. I'm an operator. And I started with solar farms in 2014. I got about 7 under my belt now. And I know what it takes to go out in the field from logistics till you turn it on. I know parts about every aspect of it, the electrical, the construction, the parts, the surveying, where to put what and what to make it do. It doesn't take a group of engineers to go out there in that field and do it. I can take the people from your community to inexperienced people, some experienced people, but basically a bunch of inexperienced people, and show them how to get this job done. And if they pay attention to the rules and regulations, it's a fairly safe job. There's been very few accidents throughout my career on solar farms. And the ones that did happen with people that didn't go by what they were told to be. It's a pretty safe work if you use your PPE right, your personal protective equipment. And like I said, it doesn't take people that went to college and very technical. I can take you young people out there that's green, what you call it, and show them a little bit, and they can go from there and run with it. It's not very hard work. You can put women as well as men. Any healthy people can go out there and make it happen. And as far as being around them and say, I built them, lived near them. I got a place now where one is going to be built there in Richmond County. I'll be right across the street from it. I've already got my place, but this farm hadn't started yet. I feel safe as far as being around them, being on them. I worked as maintenance on some after they were built. And this thing is a quiet thing. It works for you and you can't even hear it. Most of the time you won't see it after a little bit of time because you're gonna have your barriers around it, your greenery and stuff. It's not a disturbance, it don't stink. And it's a good thing to have in your county. It'll bring some money while you build it and it'll bring you some money after that. And that's about what I got to say. And if you have any question, I hope I'm able to answer.
You did good.
Thank you,
Ma'am.
Anybody have any questions?
You did good with that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham.
All right, you have a good evening.
We'd like to have at least one person who's laid a hand on, on putting up a unit when we ask you for permission to put one up.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce our next witness, Nick Kirkland, with Kirkland Appraisals. He's here to speak to the analysis that his firm has conducted that applies to 2 of the findings in Section 38 of your ordinance related to whether the use and enjoyment of nearby property or its value would be diminished by the presence of a solar farm, or whether the architecture or condition in which the solar farm would be built would lead to any substantial depreciation in the neighborhood. So Mr. Kirkland speaks to both the findings of 38B and 38D.
That's you. She'll find it in a minute.
No rush.
Move that money around.
It's a good
Please. I'm in a meeting. Trying to tell my daughter, I gotta look at it.
Can we go forward now? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Please. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Nick Kirkland with Kirkland Appraisals. The address is 9408 Northfield Court in Raleigh, 27603. I'm a state certified general appraiser in the state of North Carolina as well as the Commonwealth of Virginia. We've been looking at solar farms for the full time that I've been an appraiser. I've worked with my father, Rich Kirkland. We've looked at about 865 solar farms, somewhere in there, all across the country, the vast majority of which have been located on the East Coast. And when you look at that many, you start to see some trends. What we've seen is that most solar farms adjoin predominantly residential and agricultural uses. And for this specific project, it conforms to what we typically see with solar farms, in which most of the adjoining uses are both residential and agricultural. As far as the closest homes noted, we measure from the proposed panel location to the structures themselves. For this one, based on the site plan we saw, it's 400 feet from the closest home to the closest panel, and the average distance is over 1,000 feet for all the adjoining residences, which is significantly further than the data that we have says no impact at that distance. But based on the information that we have regarding where solar farms are typically sited, it's my professional opinion that the proposed use will be a harmonious use in its location. But to talk about whether or not it could impact the adjoining property value, we have to do what's called a matched pair or a paired sales analysis. This is where we compare a home that's sold adjacent to a solar farm and compare that to 3 to 5 nearby homes that were not adjacent to a solar farm in order to measure for any difference in that sales price. In the impact study before you, we have 56 matched pairs that we've pulled from the most pertinent solar farms in proximity to the area. And these show a range of impacts from negative 10% to positive 10%, with the overwhelming majority of them being between 0% and positive 5%. The overall average and median of that spread is positive 1%, which is within typical market friction and is a strong indication of no impact on the adjoining property values. And those support homes much closer than the 400 feet that the closest home for this proposed site is. And so based on this information, it's my professional opinion that the proposed use will not impact the adjoining property values. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Just if you said it, I apologize for missing. How many homes are there in that area?
That adjoin this?
Shows.
We from directly adjoining parcels, we've got 8, including farmsteads where it's several hundred acres, and there's one home somewhere on there. But
Somewhere out there, nowhere. Okay.
Well, you said there was one that's 400 feet. Where is it at?
Good question. Let's see.
Yeah, 'cause I don't know of any.
There can't be much.
It is due south of it. I believe it is
Plummerton Road.
right to the right of where it says Old Lumberton Road. I believe that the house is in there, though my map is in black and white and it's kind of hard to tell. I believe it's in there. If not, it is definitely on the southern or southeast portion of that. But yeah.
Okay.
I make the assumption that this letter dated April 21st was sent to all of those persons that you identified, those 8 owners. It's a letter to neighbors in the back.
I did not send out a letter to neighbors. That is probably with Pine Gate, though. Okay.
I'm sorry. Would you say that again? You attended that meeting and. Okay.
Commissioner, just as a guidance to the book, at the back of that letter, the mailing labels to whom the letter was sent are included at the back of the letter. So thank you.
It's like it's all Carmichael's.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
Unless you have questions.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. I remember you from. I remember the name from prior reports. Thank you.
We've done a couple of them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we had the same request with regard to we tendered them as he
accept it as an expert.
Unless there's any opposition from the board, we will accept Mr. Kirkland as an expert in this field.
I know you'd be delighted to have me say this is the final witness that we'd like to present to meet our obligations under the ordinance. I'd like to introduce Kara Drain, who's a planning professional who's worked for city, county, and regional planning entities. She's going to speak to the findings under 38C and D regarding the ability for orderly development of surrounding property to occur, and that the property that the property in the project is done in compliance with the comprehensive plan and the ways in which the county has decided that it wants its land to be developed. Ms. Drain.
Good evening. My name is Kara Drain. I work with Collier's Engineering and Design, 5275 Parkway Plaza in Charlotte. I'm a senior project manager, and I've been been nationally certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners for over 25 years. The proposed use will comply with all applicable development regulations and standards. And in your notebooks, you have a copy of my report that goes point by point how the proposed project meets and in many cases exceeds the standards for Scotland County. And meeting these adopted standards is further evidence that this use is harmonious as a matter of law. Harmony with an area does not mean that uses look like other uses in the area, but harmony does mean that two different uses can coexist without one use unreasonably interfering with the other. Solar farms possess all the characteristics of a use that does not create disharmony with existing uses in the area. They do not produce noise, light, odor, traffic, or emissions of any kind, and they also won't be visible due to setbacks and buffers. As a low-intensity use, the proposed solar farm will complement the surrounding rural community, will have no identifiable impacts on farming and agriculture, low-density residential, and also natural resources. It also allows for the continued farming of the property surrounding the solar farm, which maintains the agricultural use. It is proposed, as the development is proposed, it will be well screened, and it will also serve as a good neighbor to the surrounding low-density rural development. The proposed development also is consistent with Scotland County's 2014-2023 land use plan. So my report includes numerous ways that the project is consistent with the land use plan. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
And this is not if it comes across as a smart aleck question, I apologize. You made the statement that there's nothing currently in the area that the solar farm would be in disharmony with. What could be there or anywhere that a solar farm would be in disharmony with?
So the solar farm is harmonious with the area because it is a low intensity use.
Is there any place that a solar farm would not be harmonious?
In my professional opinion, I would say no, because the solar farm is complementary. It doesn't require utilities. It has and it doesn't emit any odors or light or traffic. It's a very it's a low intense use. So it meets your standards for your land use plan because it supports the values that you have for your rural community.
Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking. That questions for anyone?
This may not even be for you, so and it may not matter. But doesn't that gas line run through there? That new gas line?
Gas.
But that big one that they just, does it run through there?
Big one,
And they're all, I mean, does that matter? About the operate? I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
I'm sorry, if you, this is being broadcast, so if you may need to come to the microphone to answer.
We're live, so.
Yeah, we've had other sites where gas lines are crossing through the center. It's permitted like any other crossing. It's not generally open to the site, so usually it's fenced off on either side, and then there are specific crossing locations that would be gated.
I guess they maintain their easement. to
Yes,
that
yeah,
access to
it's avoided.
So will these panels be on top of these easements, or they're all separate?
They're separate. Yeah, that access remains clear along gas easement.
I thought I knew it was somewhere in that area, but I didn't know.
Any other questions,
My ramble stopped.
of Ms. Drain? Thank you, ma'am.
And Mr. Chair, we'd also like to submit Ms. Drain as an expert. That concludes our testimony, Mr. Chair. We really appreciate your patience in allowing us to come down tonight and talk to you about it. We'd request that after you are able to reflect on the materials and speak to Mr. Mcmillan, that the board approve the special use permit. And we have submitted a proposed order to Mr. Johnston for his and your consideration.
I have that in front of me, and I will make sure that each of our commissioners have a chance to see this. Thank you for your proposal.
Only question is going to be the same one I ask at every solar farm presentation.
What happens 30 years from now?
Right. And I don't want to hear the same recycle talk, please. And I'm not knocking that. We've heard it. But did we ever cross that decommissioning bond bridge that I thought we were going to cross last time? I thought where it was going to be put in that zoning plan.
The question that we have is what happens when the life expectancy of the solar farm runs out? What happens to the property owner when this is all said and done? What do they have to do to take down what they've got? And is there any? And I know some counties have had a bond set where, and I'm not sure who puts that up. I would assume the solar manufacturer, and it kind of protects the county from having a field out there with a lot of stuff that's left, and it probably protects the property owner in the same way.
Mr. Chair, in all the jurisdictions that have decommissioning plan requirements, Pine Gate complies with each of them, and the general rubric of those requirements is the salvage of materials and the ability to return the site to its previous uses. And that's something that the developer is able to do in compliance with requests from the owners or in requirements from the jurisdiction.
I think our position, or the conversation we had trying to summarize it, is the answers usually seems to be that the recovery of materials is sufficient enough to pay for the cost of doing that. At least as we look at it 30 years in advance, we believe that's going to be true. I think we wanted to have some more designated solution to that problem, assuming that 30 years from now that recyclable materials may not be as valuable as we believe they will be at this point. That's not something that falls to you, but falls to us.
Okay. I know in the discussion, a bond was required in the zoning ordinance. I'll confirm that.
I thought it was too, but we haven't approved that zoning ordinance now, right?
Sir?
We haven't approved that ordinance.
Yes.
I think we have approved that ordinance. Okay. The only question that I still have, and I don't know how to proceed at this point. We've got an airport that they're requested funds to improve the airport, to add more things. I know there's an expansion in place. I would hate for us to approve something that would conflict with building a tower 5 years from now. And I don't know what their plans are. I'm not sure exactly.
Well, I will leave the substantive testimony to our folks, and Mr. Cleveland has testified, to our sort of knowledge of those rules. Certainly, any requirement for testing or study that does still apply to our project, we would do as a part of the development of the process. So if there's any remaining remnant of that in the FAA's current view of those rules, we'll absolutely comply with those processes. And the FAA itself would have its own set of rules for the, the development of their property.
I got a feeling they would win any argument anyway.
Okay.
Back to the decommissioning bond. It's not in that.
In here.
Right. Is this the first you've heard about our decommissioning?
It is. David, David's Mr. McLaughlin's the company representative. Has the bond issue come up in this project?
Yes, sir. I don't believe it has, but we definitely run into bonds in many ordinances. In counties we work in.
We would like to have that added to this.
If you will look at 13.7 decommissioning.
There you go.
Decommissioning signed by the party responsible for decommissioning and the landowner addressing the following shall be submitted. Permit application, decommissioning plan shall follow provision as outlined, and a bond shall be required, established. In no case shall be less than $10,000 per acre.
Would it be appropriate to have that added to this order?
We'd certainly do that and resubmit it.
Okay, we'll have a conversation with Mr. Johnston and have him be in touch with you sometime tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Mr. Johnson and we'll get that done.
One other question.
Yes, sir.
I've been seeing your project overview for its lease term. Lease term of land. That's based on coming back to decommission. How long they gonna lease it?
Since I'm not sworn to testify, I'm going to let Mr. McLaughlin speak to the terms of the lease because I'm not a testimony.
Right, Mr. McLaughlin, will you mind coming back?
I'd like to clarify the question, I guess, first. Are you saying, or is the question about the lease or how long these properties generally operate? So typically that we're looking at 30 to 40 years for the lifespan of these projects. So it wouldn't be happening for a minimum of 25 to 30 years.
Can you put it on this? Yeah, I need to see something.
Okay, so you would like that, some form of that in the application as well.
So I think you're saying it's an open-ended lease for whatever amount of time.
So this one is actually going to be a purchase.
Oh, it's going to
so
be.
the
So it's
property
not even gonna
is,
be a lease.
is the sell.
Okay.
Yes, but the lifespan. So I wanted to clarify that though, because I gathered the question was, what is the lifespan of the project and when would decommissioning?
Approximately 4 million over lease term.
Mm-hmm.
They do me with, when you talk with decommission.
Oh, it says lease on there. I didn't even see that.
They're gonna look- taxes on the project.
But anyway, but it's going to be a purchase, not a lease.
Yes.
But I think your response of the span of the project still answers what the concern is, right? That, so if you include that, I think that handles it.
Yeah, and we are, as I said earlier, decommissioning bonds are pretty much the norm in many counties now. Any county preparing an ordinance has decommissioning bonds, so this is nothing new to us.
I just
as far
didn't
as
see it in
preparing.
that.
Yeah, and I think adding that to this would cover whenever the usefulness of the field expires, that the bond would the cleanup would take place, and if not, the bond would be enacted.
Yeah, and we can definitely have to make sure that's in there.
Let's just make sure, just add that to it. Mr. McFadden, you good?
Good.
Any other questions? Okay.
So we're going to wait now for that.
Well,
I mean,
I think we can trust that to the attorneys and to the proposer here. And if we want to move forward with approving the permit, I think we can do that.
Contingent on modification of the order.
But contingent on adding,
The attorney.
right.
Was Mr. Mcmillan ever contacted? Nobody reached.
We did not make he did not make contact. He left a message.
But I think we know as a fact that the planning and zoning did approve this. and I'm,
Well, if nobody has spoken against it from out, which, like I said, I don't know of anybody out there anyway, other than the ATV park, and whoever lives down there. But if they haven't spoken out about it, then it's open land, right? I mean, it's.
Mr. Chair, I'd offer a motion that we approve the permit.
if with no, if conditioned upon that the modification of the order to include the bond and upon review with Mr. Mcmillan, that their board has favorably approved this and recommend that to us. And Mr. Johnston. Okay. We have a motion to approve this. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, can we make sure that there's conversation held with the Planning and Zoning Board about the decommissioning bond, so that this is, we don't have to go through this again. It should be a part of the conversation on the front end rather than when they get here.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can do that.
That's why I asked the question the way I did, because I thought we did, but then I wasn't sure. And
Yeah. And they may have had that conversation too. We just don't know. Thank all of you for your time and.
All right, where are we at? Zoning map.
Zoning map. And this one is, we actually got a grant through, RULAC, Rural Land Use Advisory Committee. That's 8-county district. Anybody who's touching
Fort
Campbell
Bragg.
Hall or Fort Bragg is in this. They came in and they basically digitized our zoning maps. And then for the last year, zoning has gone through the parcels finding errors. And the request is that we make the GIS, the maps on GIS, our official zoning map versus the paper book maps that we also run into consistent errors where notations were not updated.
And this has been properly advertised.
It
Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of the proposal that we use the GIS as our formal zoning map? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition to that? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing in that regard. Is there a motion from the board?
I'll make the motion that we use the GIS as the official zoning map.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
That's it.
Second, Commissioner Goldston. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Sheriff Kersey.
Yes, sir.
How did you manage to get so late on the program, sir?
All right, sir. Bible says, patience is a virtue. And, so you never know when you're going to be out there working or not, but it's always an honor and a privilege to speak to county commissioners and you, Mr. Chairman. A solar panel may make some people happy that live on McCorn Road because of people riding their ATVs onto the property. They won't be able to do that anymore.
Well, you hope they will.
I think there's like two houses right where you're talking about. But anyway, I appreciate you allowing me to speak, and this won't take very long. Over the last month or so, the sheriffs in North Carolina have spoken, and most of us agree, and some have already gone before their county commissioners for a resolution. Normally, when we have bulletproof vests that become obsolete, we take them to the landfill because as law enforcement officers, they have went outside that date. So what we're trying to do now is through Samaritan Purse is by having a resolution signed, and the general statute is there 160A-280 is instead of us taking these bulletproof vests to the landfill, We're going to send them to Samaritan Purse, and they're going to send them to Ukraine because of the men and women over there that's fighting, and they don't have any type of body protection. So even though we can't use them anymore, anything is better than nothing. And, you know, I thought it was a great idea to jump on board. I mean, we have 10 at the office, and, you know, I hate to take 10 out to the landfill knowing, and I'll never know that maybe we could have saved a life over there. We can't, I personally, or we can't send them to Ukraine, but we can send them to Samaritan Purse, and then they have the setup to send them over there. And that's basically what the resolution states.
You're requesting that this board approve that resolution?
Yes,
allow
sir.
you to do that.
And we'll make the trip to Raleigh, or once all the counties are set up, those that will, to drop the bulletproof vests off at one location and have them moved or picked up by Samaritan Purse, and then go from there.
Okay.
Tell us about Samaritan Purse. I thought we were saying.
Well, it's actually was started by Franklin Graham. I think most people know Samaritan Purse anytime they have any type of severe storms where countries have been devastated. That at Christmas time they do the shoebox where most churches here. It's all about helping somebody, and whoever came up with this idea must have been led by the Lord, and, you know, for it to be put on their heart, because I've never heard of this being done before, and I've got 38 years in law enforcement. And but I said, you know, what the heck, taking them to the landfill.
Yeah.
So,
any
Thing.
questions? I'm gonna make that motion, sir.
well, thank you, sir.
There's a second. We have a second. All in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Yes, sir. Anything?
And I will keep the board informed on when we drop them off, and maybe there's a way I can write something in there on the inside of the vest and put our address on there, and we get a card or something back, you know.
I'm proud that Scotland County can play a little part with the seriousness of what's going on in our Ukraine. So it's a good feeling. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna move down to the COVID update. I think we've got our health director here, and I think there's the two items that fall in between here. I'm not sure there's anybody here for that. We're gonna go ahead and let Ms. Deaver advise us what's going on.
The data I have, the CDC updates their data weekly. So every Thursday morning I get a report. So this data is for the week ending 7/6/22. Our data is trending down, so we are now at a low community risk level. Our positivity cases, 16% positivity rate. We currently have 70 positive cases. 2 new hospital admissions with week ending 7/6/22.
You said we had 70
positive.
positive.
Mhm. We have 2 new hospital admissions, week ending 7/6/22. 0 deaths. For the vaccines, we have 63.5% that have had at least 1 dose, and 49.2% that are fully vaccinated. We continue to give vaccines every Thursday by appointment, and we have ran out of the vaccine incentive cards as of last week. We also received 80 home tests from the state, and we began giving those out on July 5th, and we ran out this morning, but we are expecting 1,200 more kits in this week. We are distributing those on Mondays and Tuesdays from 9 to 11 and 1 to 3 in the lobby at the health department. We have also been selected as one of 4 counties in North Carolina that will pilot a program through the Rockefeller Foundation that will provide free COVID tests delivered through Amazon to your home. The goal is to provide direct-to-consumer at-home tests to historically marginalized area. NCDHHS is finalizing the contract, so hopefully we will know something by next week when we will be able to inform the citizens of how to order those test kits.
Any comments or questions?
You haven't heard anything about the monkeypox, right?
Yes, I've been on several webinars like twice a week about monkeypox, but fortunately we do not have a case here in Scotland County.
Great.
My wife was told that she could go to Walmart and they would give her, I think, 2 packages, and each package had 2 at-home tests in it. And she went and got those today. We took kids to Baptist church camp at Oak Island this past weekend, and Saturday one of our kids got a text from one of the kids from another church that she had tested positive. Our youth tested positive today, and so we went and got the test and tested ourselves. So,
How about that?
Well, we're hoping to get 1,200 more boxes in, and each box has 5 tests in the box.
but I'm thinking there are some available out there that are being provided at no cost too. So thank you, ma'am. Any questions of Ms. Steve? Thank you so much. Let's go back. Scotland Free Clinic.
Okay. With this, of course, last November, the board did allocate $150,000 to the free health clinic. We did come up with a revenue measure for them at $250 per person that they visited, so they could, as an earn rate. And we do have someone from finance going out quarterly and doing measures on those. As of the end of June, in between November and June, they've seen 421 clients. So that means they have earned $105,000 of the 150, leaving 44,000 that they have not yet earned. They have the money. It was front loaded. But we had to develop a system where they used it rather than reimbursement of expenditures. So that was the method we came up with. And assuming that it's consistent, it may be sooner than this, but we expect that they may fully use or have fully earned the $150,000 by September.
If you will recall, at one of our meetings, our budget meetings in the last couple of months, we had gotten a letter from their director, Ginger Cousins, and her question was, had we approved anything for the coming fiscal year? And I went back and looked, and we had not. We did talk about it when we made this award back last November. And I think her request would be that we consider funding her at so that she could continue to earn money through the end of the fiscal year that we have just begun. So I think her request would be that we would make some allocation for funds that they can continue to earn at the same rate, the $250 per patient, for October of 22 through June of 23. We may have a better idea of what that number would be in a couple of months from now. So it's not a decision we have to make today, or we can go ahead and talk about that and do something. I don't know what the pleasure of the board might be. I think they're earning somewhere in the last couple of months has been somewhere in the $15,000, $16,000 a month.
$15,000 to $16,000 a month they're earning of that.
when they started in November, they earned 8,250 and then 8,000. It improved after the first of the year in January to 14, and it's been 14, 15, 11, 15, and 15 through May, and then June is whatever got them from that level to the 105.
So you would have 8 months after September left, so you're talking another
120.
$130,000.
You want to make a motion for 120? Oh, wait.
But I guess my thing is, what pot are you talking about taking that out of?
The current 150 came out of the recovery funds.
Right.
And this new amount he's mentioned will come out of our standard budget.
It's not currently budgeted.
Okay, so what's the longest time? Okay, so you're saying by what date they would need to have this?
The money that we have granted to them, I think, has been very beneficial in doing what they hope to do, and that's gain some stability in their organization. They've been able to apply for and get other grants. So they are currently operating, I'm going to say, in the black. They needed the stability that what they asked for, we provided. They wanted us to do it through the end of the fiscal year that ends June of 2023.
Okay, so
We don't have to do anything today. And we can, if we want to wait and make a decision as we got to look and see what everything else has sorted out in regard to the funds, and make that decision sometime between now and the end of the year.
Okay.
Let's just table this until later. That's okay.
That'd be fine.
I want us to table it. I mean, just because we have a better understanding. I think what we've done to help is paramount. And we certainly don't want to back away and they end up in the same situation.
Right.
But if we can give it a little more time to see what it looks like as we move forward, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I'm okay with tabling it, but just not putting it under the table.
Yeah, well, I think when we talked about it last time, and she had sent that proposal at that time, she wasn't clear exactly where they stood, and I think she's got a much better. Okay.
And as long as she knows we are going to support, I think she'll be okay.
I think so. Okay. We will table that at this point. Revaluation discussion.
You know, I thought that we decided not to do that. Am I wrong?
I don't think we officially decided that.
Yeah.
But we talked.
Revaluation.
Yeah, we talked about it, didn't we?
But it was discussed, and at that last meeting, there was no one leading the charge to do a revaluation. And with this, but just going with it at our current sales assessment ratio, which is compared where the tax office, when you sell property, the tax office reviews the deeds if they deem it to be an arm's length transaction. And so not through foreclosure, not through bankruptcy, not from related party members. They take the amount of the transaction compared to the valuation. Right now, the average valuation is 84% of the transaction cost. So our values are could be applied at 16% below market. When the state recommends or encourages counties to do a revaluation, when their valuation is more or less than 10% from market. So once the valuation is below 90%, where ours is, or if we were upside down by more than 10%, which is a terrible place to be, the state would like you to do a revaluation. It is not mandated. Our revaluation would on our 8-year revaluation cycle, revaluation is currently for 2027, I believe. And it is possible to do one at least not a full measure revaluation, but we could do a revaluation potentially in 2024, definitely by 2025, which would speed it up 2 years. But then again, the board did mention, as every economist and every other person dealing with finance, they're worried about the recession, which everyone is predicting. And at that point in time, there will be a correction in the housing market. No one knows how much. So with that, we do have a price on hiring someone in to come in and do a revaluation. I believe it's $135,000 for support for basically, I'll call it more a desk revaluation, where they're doing more determining the schedule of values and looking at industrial and commercial properties versus a full list and measure where they come out to every property. I'm going to measure your home and get a much more in detail price. That cannot be done by 2024, period. That is more than a 2-year process to do that. But that's where we are now.
So what do you recommend?
That's more up to the board. You're really looking at the possibility of increasing. You do have a 16% in your residential market on average. We don't know what that would mean for industrial prices, which is where a third of our valuation comes from. So there would be a positive gain in this, assuming we did it tomorrow and it was 84%. A revenue neutral tax rate would be 90 to 95 cents. It would not be in the 80s.
But if we could wave the magic wand and do that, and we were back at 100%, and then the housing market falls with a recession, then we've got people paying taxes on a house that we've increased its value from $84,000 to $100,000. And I'm
yes,
and now their house worth 70.
And now the house is worth $75,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to see that occur. I hate to see us.
We need to get through this bump that's coming next year.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion.
Yeah, my thought is now is not the right time to do that.
No, I don't think so either.
And I don't think anybody is going to say that the housing market is not pushing some of this inflation.
I think it is. Do we need to take a vote on that so we put this to bed, or at this point the consensus of this group is that now is not the time to do that? We will postpone that to further
Okay.
Let's let the economy play out a little bit.
So we will continue on the scheduled revaluation for 2027.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now with that, we are looking at some other aspects that will help out for future revaluations, more information, but it will also help out with public safety as well, as far as imagery that we are looking to do, and we'll have some conversation with that in the future.
Alice Johnson.
We do have phase 1 is out for bid, and the bid date on that, the bid opening, we did push it back a week because some of the contractors were having problems getting some of their subs in. So the bid opening is July 19th at 2:00 at the Morgan Center.
Okay.
And if you're still having the committee meeting tomorrow, I am available. Thank you. And I haven't confirmed this, but the roof should be effectively complete on the building.
Okay.
The bids are going out. Also, we have done ordered the topo on the property. So as soon as that is in hand, that will be given to the engineer and they will start working on a parking design. So we will go ahead and probably start bidding that out, and that will give the board an idea of exactly what we're looking at for the whole property as well. Laurel Hill Community Center, that project is going on. It is still on target. Other than effectively what looks like moving dirt outside and the pickleball courts, which will, that everything else will be effectively inside the building until they go off and install the storefronts. But right now, that project is on time and on budget.
So, you know, I went out there and Commissioner Gibson, we weren't going together, but we just happened to go at the same time. And Leon Butler went and he was there to talk to that supervisor out there about this, putting up this memorial stuff in there somewhere. Of course, he said he hadn't heard anything about it, but he kind of, as you go in that front door to the right, kind of designated that area as to where that would be the perfect place for it. So, which is that piece of that court that he had cut up, and they've got, I think, some uniforms or something from old sport teams or whatever to put in there. So their memorial area would be right there, or in part of that area. So.
And if that material wants, and if the board wants to display that would be,
that I'm fine with it. I know that's been their intention. Some of the folks over there the whole time, but
because I know they have that center, the center court.
He cut it's not the center, but he cut a piece of that cord out that they wanted to hang up in there somewhere, which I hope, you know, we asked for that center when that IEJ to be cut out because it's got the logo on it. I hope they did, or we'll do it before they.
Assuming we go off and we do an overlay,
right.
That will be removed.
Yeah.
We did talk about that.
I just didn't want them to forget it and stick something over it, then it's too late. But
yeah.
I'm talking about cutting out that logo, have it for.
That was the specific part of conversation during the pre-bid meeting.
Okay.
Anything else?
Boards and committees.
Talked to Mr. Alford. He called me, as I mentioned earlier, and said he was not going to be able to attend tonight. And he said he wanted me to make his report. We have I guess we have three different boards that we're trying to approve people for. First on the agenda was the Planning and Zoning Board. We have 2 appointments, and the names that have submitted applications are Daniel Dockery, John Easterlin, Jerome John, and John McLean. I see that at the bottom we've got a Jerome John there's a Laurenburg, Scotland County Planning and Zoning Board with Jerome John being recommended for that.
The ETJ.
He's the only person who has applied that meets the qualifications.
So you could really take him off of that first one, since assuming we would approve him for the ETJ one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. John did not mention that to me, but that would then create an opening at for the Planning and Zoning Board.
He's down to 3 people to choose. Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't mind, let's start with the bottom.
Is that McNeil?
We're too late now, right?
Unless he has some recommendation on the boards. I don't think we tell Mr. McMillan we appreciate him getting back to us. you can relate to him what we did in regard to zoning for the solar farm. And that's what we were just looking to confirm from him, that the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board was that they approved, that they would approve and recommend to us that we approve that permitting part. Do I have a motion that we approve Jerome John for the ETJ board?
So moved. Second.
Either
way.
We have a motion, well,
Jason ain't here.
Jason's not here anyway.
So better
If you'll,
write it down.
I'm sorry, Tim motion and BJ is the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Planning and Zoning Board, that means we have three for there: Daniel Dockery, John Easterling, and John McLean. John McLean is currently a member on that board, and I think he is a important member on that board.
He's a chair.
I know he is very active with them.
Jim's chair.
Yeah. And John, Mr. Easterling's in the room, so I'm going to talk about him.
Where's he at? Oh, I didn't see him behind it.
I do not want to consider for this. I applied this months ago. So I think the interest just is.
But we had a little bit of an issue feeling like our current arrangement would make that probably not the best.
Easily settled. Daniel Dockery and
John McClain.
And I will say that at one time I had, Mr. Dockery, I know had some bad attendance, but I understand that was health issues, and he's willing and able to serve at this time. Is that?
So that's Dockery and Jerome John.
No, John McClain.
No, John McLean and Daniel Dockery.
Put Jerome on it as the
Okay.
ETJ. So
So
Do I have?
I need to make a motion.
We have a motion from BJ Gibson that we appoint Daniel Dockery and John McLean. Sarah, second. Beatty, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. John's recommendation for the Tourism Development Authority was for Jeremy Baker, Glenn Batten, Ron Riggins, and Dan Smith.
So there's four.
There's four, and that there are 6 people that are recommended here. There are 6 people who have made application.
I like to see Loretta McNeil.
And with that, there is the requirement for one member of that board to be in the hotel or housing, either as an owner or operator. Ron Riggins is currently the only hospitality hotel owner or operator on the board.
But he won't be there for long, right?
Correct.
Given that, I do remember reading that we do Ron Riggins, Jeremy Baker, Glenn Batten, and Loretta McNeil.
How many seats are
Ron Riggins, Jeremy Baker, Glenn Batten, and Loretta McNeil. We have that motion. Is there, and the second from Commissioner McFadden? Any further discussion? In way of discussion, this is coming from John Alford as well. His comment was that Loretta McNeil had been on the Historic Property Board, and her attendance there was not good.
I spoke with her about that after our conversation, and I'll share with you later why, but I don't think you have that issue.
Okay. All right. We've got a motion in a second. Any further discussion in regard to that? Jeremy Baker, Loretta McNeil, Ron Riggins, and Glenn Batten. Okay. We've got a motion in a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If you don't mind, I'm going to do this, but all in favor, will you raise your hands? 1, 2, 3, 4. All any opposed, and I will vote no for that. So those 4 are the ones who were elected to that board. Jason, you got all that? Okay.
Mcmillan, he did confirm that they did unanimously vote to approve the.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think that takes us for the appointments. Gentlemen, y'all were here a lot longer than I expected y'all to be here. We appreciate you coming. These guys are Boy Scouts with 420. They are, I think this is part of their citizenship and the community merit badge. They're both getting close. I know both of them have been to scout camp or going back to scout camp. The taller one over here, Corey, and I he was at Oak Island with 23 other youths from New Hope Baptist Church and 6 adults that we had a pretty good experience, didn't we, my friend? Yeah.
If I may say, Mr. Chairman, gentlemen, it was good to have you all here. Thank you for being here. And Mr. Chairman, it would be good if you could coordinate having some young people who come each week to
I think
here for them and for us.
I think it's great. In fact, I wish we had gotten a picture of y'all doing that. That was cool.
Thank you all.
All right. Y'all have a good night. Can you, Mr. Patterson, you got anything else to report, sir?
I'll try to be brief on my report. I'll go off and start off with the bad news. I did have a meeting with our engineer, gave them our information on the North Turnpike water extension program. I gave him all the addresses on that list. And he went in and he did he put them all in with this. The blue cluster up in the top is Deercroft. The blue lines are existing water lines, so they do go down Harold Morris Road. But with this, the red lines are extensions. But it is just over 9 miles of pipe that would be needed to be served, staying along the main roads.
Wait, so Chainsaw and North Turnpike, that's a county system and not an airport system? I was told it was an airport system, but there's a hydrant there. That's the only reason I'm saying that. But
I believe this is county, but I'll verify. I don't know where the connection is. That is an existing.
I assumed it was county, but then I was told that that was a airport line. But I don't know why it would be there. But
I believe it's county, but I can verify that. I'm not sure where the master.
Oh, it would be much better if it is county.
Yeah.
Because that stretch across from Deercroft over to North Turnpike, there's nothing. It's all game land, and
that's just to provide a loop in here. And that
I know, I know, but I mean, it would be a lot better if right.
Yeah. But this is the red hash line is a total of 9 miles. And I just asked the engineer to come up with the best system that would serve the most people. That puts most people within a line. There is one property here that is just that is a couple of miles that you get to one house. But with the 9 miles of pipe, it is $8,750,000 as an estimate. I'll get back with the engineers, and they do grants. We already discussed that. So this would something we would look to figure out how to structure this, go after grants, or break this up into different sections to figure out how to trim costs, like the line going down Peach Orchard. If we eliminate part of that, see where we can go.
Yeah, I'm just the only reason I bring that up about Peach Orchard there at Deercroft, that's 2 miles, 2.5 miles across there. There's nothing. There's not a customer there. There's not. You would just be running on any land. If this is a county line, either one of those two would make much better sense to go from there and tie it in, or even if it's that close down on 501. But I just hate to see 2 or 3 miles of line run across from Deercroft and there's nothing going to be built there because it's game land.
It's game land. You can't.
So would you go back to your engineer and
yes,
explain what we see, and we want him to take a look at that?
we'll go back with him because some of this is, until we got exactly where these are, your concentrations, figure out, how we wanted to proceed, getting with them and start figuring out.
All the green dots are houses.
Those are addresses that.
And how many are there? How many are green dots you got here?
I believe it's around 45.
That's the
I think
ones that said
47.
they wanted it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's not all the houses. That's just the ones that.
No,
said-
those were just the ones that signed that list.
So there's probably more.
There's more than 40 green dots up there too.
So, but
Well, that's until we get back with the engineer and take another look at it. Let's not explain this to them right now until we can kind of get that out. Okay.
and this is a first step, and we figured the best way of doing it is to go after grant money. And that's why in that meeting, we explained, this is a long process. This is,
We really did.
so.
Okay. So we are seeking more information on this before we make any public comment.
Yes. The next thing, with this, we did have a meeting with Commerce. They are part of the Workforce Development Board reorganization recommendation from Commerce to the state. I did have a meeting with Commerce, and with this, it is up to the local board. It is up to you what you want to happen for the Workforce Development Board for Scotland County. We're currently with Laurenburg Council of Government, but there's a lot of information that's attached in here with this. I'm recommending that the board have a work session. And I just have a tentative date of June 20th, but
July 20th.
I mean, yeah, July 20th. I think June 20th may have been when I met, but it should be July.
I mean, is it necessary for it to be this close?
Commerce would like to have the recommendation or the decisions from the boards by the end of July. Because they have to start doing some other. But this would be a meeting where we would invite Commerce, invite our current Workforce Development Board, as well as members from the proposed Workforce Development Board to come in and sit down and where the board can have.
So you'd have the COG folks over here.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a proposal from Commerce that I think has been endorsed by some folks in Raleigh that the workforce development boards would be part of
The prosperity zones.
prosperity zones. They're going to create maybe 8 or 10 prosperity zones throughout the state. Some of that will remove some of the workforce development boards from the local COGs, and they would be part of those larger prosperity zones. For us, it might be that we would be part of a 6, 8, 10 counties that would be maybe coordinated out of an organization out of Cumberland County. And I think that actually may be a COG as well.
Yes.
So, and there seems to be competition between the Commerce Department wanting us to go toward the Prosperity Zone organization and the local COGs wanting us to stay with the local COGs. We've got 4 members appointed to the Workforce Development Board that I'm not sure they're in total agreement on where they think we ought to go. I've talked to a couple of them. I haven't talked to all 4 of them. And were you appointed to the workforce? But you were not. John's still on that one.
I hope.
We appointed Tim to a lot of the COG boards, including the COG big board. And I was thinking that you were that too.
He kept that.
Yeah, probably because he has an opinion on this.
He does have an opinion.
So
I think that we really should look at other agencies, not agencies, what do we call, and not always be, catering to a car all the time. It may be more effective going in other directions, but I really don't know what I'm talking about, but in trying to understand this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it is a complicated issue. I'm not going to be available in town on June 20th. If I could attend this meeting virtually. But you're talking about,
Can you get another date, Calvin?
I can
He
get,
can't be, the chairman can't be here, so
I can get a date for whenever y'all say you want to meet.
I don't want to
Pretty
meet the 20th.
much,
If you want to push it back till the following week,
I can do I can't do the 25th, but anything that last week of the month I can do. But that's also
I
going to
was
leave
going
us
out of
in
town,
later in that week. Well, they want it by the end of July, right?
I don't know. And I think that's what Commerce wants. I don't know that that's a drop dead date as far as everything else. What's
You're gonna be gone the 21st, right, BJ?
Yeah, so if, only thing I can do is the 20th or the 27th or the 28th, either 20th or 28th. That's it for me in the rest of July.
Okay,
I'd rather do the 20th than the 28th.
Yeah, I can do the 20th.
We can't do the 20th.
I can do it virtually, BJ. I'd rather be present. I'd rather do that. I just don't,
10 o'clock or 2 o'clock? 10 o'clock is better for me. 10 o'clock better for you?
That's cool. On the 28th, right?
no, I think they're talking about the 20th.
Talking about the 20th,
On the 20th, 10 o'clock.
20, 2 o'clock.
Wait a minute, y'all just said two different things. Are you okay with the 2 o'clock?
2 is fine.
I know, Clarence, it's hard for you anytime. Do
You
you?
said 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock?
Oh, that's what he's talking about.
That's what I think you said you would rather do it at 2 o'clock.
No, I rather have 10 o'clock.
Everybody good? 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock on that, and I will try to attend either in person or probably virtually.
And we're gonna do it here.
we will do it here. Just because of yes, we'll do it here in the EOC, just because of the number of people we'll probably invite.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, it's on my calendar.
All right. That's June 20th at 10 o'clock here at the EOC. Okay. Anything else, sir?
We'll be here one day. June 20th or July
20th.
Whatever.
Thank you.
Two
down
items
June.
left. One is just a reminder for the joint meeting with Town of Gibson Thursday at 7 o'clock. So, but we'll recess from here to there.
Clarence, can you be there? What happens if we don't have a quorum?
Sorry, I can't go.
You gonna be there?
Yeah.
I can be there.
I cannot.
You cannot.
Unfortunately, I want to, but I can't. I know.
I can be there. I mean,
We may not have a quorum.
Okay, if it happens,
Carol won't be there. John should be, but that may still only give us 3.
if it happens that you do not have a quorum, what we could do is we could thereafter assume the 20th, advertise that as a special meeting. So that clarifies the issue.
well, either way, we would recess the Gibson one and still go
Yes.
to the 20th. So either way, the 20th is gonna be
So it will not be an issue.
Okay. So we will.
We'll put it on there. Just put it on their calendar for the 20th. July. Did you just put it on the July 20th calendar?
I did.
It's yours doing it then.
Yes.
So I knew somebody kept my calendar. You know, I've been complaining about this calendar. That was yours, did it? Because it just popped up on mine.
So July 20th, we coming here to the meeting.
July 20th, we'll meet in this room.
We're not going to Gibson.
No, we are going to Gibson, but
Thursday.
On the 14th.
but we already know 3 of our group can't be there.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were saying. There wouldn't be enough people to go.
That's this Thursday.
Well, if there'll be 3 of us there, whether we convene as a meeting or not, we will still be present. And if Clarence can be there, we will be official.
And that's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. And we're going to the depot?
Depot, yes.
Okay.
last thing, for the annual conference for the association, you do need to select a voting member. Commissioner Gibson, Commissioner McCall are both registered to go. Commissioner Gibson is our district chairman, so he will be at the business meeting already.
Where is it this year?
I would, if he is willing to be the voting delegate, I would ask that we appoint BJ Gibson as our voting delegate.
For some reason I couldn't go to that. Is that the weekend of the 13th or something like that? That's why.
10th through the 14th, I think. Is there a second to that motion?
And then
I'll say.
potentially Carol as
Motion. I'm sorry. And Carol could be there. Carol is the alternate. And I talked to Carol today and she's doing okay. I think it's still premature to decide whether or not she's actually will be going or not. All in favor of BJ being the delegate and Carol as the alternate, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it.
and that is all I have.
Okay, good.
I have made copies of that.
Okay.
You don't have to take anything, so it's kind of.
Mr. Chairman, okay, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Go ahead, BJ.
I was gonna say, East Laurenburg is, I guess, a detailed conversation we've got to have at some point. And Laura Hill needs to be added to that conversation. It's obviously we were up there, looking around there, and they have an idea for Laura Hill, just as East Laurenburg does. But I think more specifically, East Laurenburg, we need to have a more immediate meeting because I think we want to keep that building in some use rather than giving time for it to sit and not be used, especially when you got people like LOF who are interested in
using it, yeah.
With a feature. So
yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, but I know that's another meeting that needs to be held. My other comment, if I can at this time.
Go ahead.
We got an email earlier from Summer Woodside.
Yeah.
That's a conversation that quite a few people in the community have addressed to me, and that is about the opioid settlement that is coming to our community. And I did read your email. I know that Kevin, there's a group that is together that's working on it. But I think we need to consider opening that group up to more than just law enforcement and people who work in public safety. And what the community has said is that, when you think about the impact that opioid has had on our community, it would be to the benefit of having some local organizations who have concern there, even people who are former individuals that's been affected by the opioid. Their voices need to be there more than just law enforcement. I mean, law enforcement has its role, but you need some real people who have dealt with it, have family members who've dealt with it at the table as well, so that we have a wide variety of people who are giving input. So I'm not sure who's on that committee or when they meet that you have, but I do want us to consider make it. And Dr. Woodside's position from our conversation is Robeson County has a robust on which she is on by virtue of her job at social work at UNCP. And it's larger than just law enforcement. It has, some church representatives, some reentry people who are all kind of at the table early on about how those funds will be used, rather than law enforcement giving us a recommendation, we push that out, and then it's kicked because we didn't include.
And with ours, we do have law enforcement. We have invited the sheriff, police department, DSS, health department, East Point for mental health, as well as the hospital, the healthcare system. And we've reached into, and it's been growing through just bringing in those already. But it would be very reasonable to go off and actually have community meetings on that, and then look at finding other agencies or partners, but bringing in a community meeting. And some of it was because until we got some better ideas, before we we didn't want to start promising anything, because right now we don't have a whole lot of services. Robinson County had some services to build on, so we're starting much earlier. But I think bringing that out and taking the step to get into the community would be a very valuable aspect.
If you would keep me abreast of that,
Okay.
I'd like to be part of it.
Well, I was going to suggest, BJ, why don't you be this board's representative to that and work with Kevin on getting that broader community group.
Yeah.
My last thing is Michelle Thomas came and met with us virtually a while back, talking about a grant from HUD, and we in turn suggested that she meet with the city so that we could partner in this project. She is scheduled to meet with the city during their city council meeting this month.
Okay.
And I shared with those representatives that I would ask you, Kevin, to follow up with the city manager after their meeting to determine how together we can move forward on that.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a meeting with him tomorrow, so I'll go ahead and reach out to him. And then,
thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Adams.
Well, I just real quick, I promise.
Please, let it go.
You know, the governor did sign the budget tonight as we came in, so I assume that money is dedicated to us now.
yes.
Thank you, sir. No, I don't, but I wanted to just drop a seed of thought. I'm not making this motion of anything. That we've been looking for a building for us for a while, a room or something. And
yes,
my thought on that is you build basically this room next door. So you've already got one wall, you build 3 more walls and a concrete floor, and you know, you're already wired, and you could probably do that somewhere in the $170 a square foot range because you're not building into your walls, which would put us into $300,000 range. But I'm saying use some of that money for that. And let's quit going around about trying to figure out where to go. I may not even be here, but I'm saying this board should get that. But that's just my thought on it.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay. Betty, do you have anything you wish to?
I just like to say, when I first became a county commissioner, I started a drug abuse program in Scotland County. Probably nobody remember that, but I did start a drug abuse organization back in what year was it? In the 80s, probably early 90s. But and I involved the churches basically, and I worked with mental health, and it was pretty productive for a while. To go to the next level, and I didn't know how to take it to the next level. So anyway, I did do that.
Well, it's a huge problem, and we will have some funds coming in that can help us. It's not going to be a mammoth amount of funds, but I think the conversation so that we know what our resources are and what I think all of that is beneficial. And then I think we will have enough money to start programs and complement and maybe even join with other counties to develop regional rehab centers. I think there's a lot that can be done from this.
I do like the idea of involving the community, so I'm looking forward to that, really. And especially with families that have had, members that have been problematic with this.
Right. My one comment, Mr. Easton, we appreciate your work that you did for us. We appreciate all you did. We wish you could have done all that we asked, but we do believe that you did well. I'm not, if I may, I think when I talked with you that you felt like there may be some additional allocation sometime in the fall.
Yes, sir. There'll be an opportunity in a few months, probably around August or September, when the legislature comes back in to take care of a few more issues. In Budget Tech Correct, Speaker may have mentioned that there'll be possibly a few more $1 billion that could be allocated to some of these cities.
We'll take it.
And so you are still going to be looking after us. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We do appreciate it. Okay, if I have nothing else that I'm going to bring forward, do we have a motion to recess until Thursday at 7 o'clock at the Gibson Depot?
So
We have a motion and a second from you, Mr. McFadden. We have a second. So these two are not paying any attention to me over here. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. We are in recess. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to plant the seed because we got some money.
Yeah, yeah. I think you did.
I know what you're going to be drinking all night.
Oh, that's right.
6 o'clock. We're meeting there at.
How are you, sir?
Loretta was kicked off the library advisory board for being in no show.
Well, Jason, are we all here?
Okay.
Make sure.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Well, because that's the space where we don't have everybody.
Right. And okay, that's
Yeah. Yeah, I'm working on something in regard to what you and I talked about. Nothing earth shattering, but at least.
Do I need to sign?
We're-
Yes, so we'll just
I
do that meeting.
want to bring some attention to the fact that we do have a lot of minorities. And also.
No problem.
Black people